Hello, it has been a while. Before you get excited, I'm not back. I'm not doing sex ed anymore, but I hope that you stick around for this video if you're curious about what I've been up to for the past year and a bit, both personally and professionally. And also if you are still curious and interested in sex ed, then I've got a little something for you at the end, a little rundown of some of the sex and relationships books that I have read over the past year, and then also some new ones that have recently come out that I want people to know about and I want to share with the group, and also hopefully read myself at some point. So why am I making this video? In all honesty, ever since I quit sex ed at the end of 2023, I've had the odd comments from people, or if I have done media interviews, there's always this assumption that's like, Hannah Witton, she quit YouTube. And I'm like, no, I am still here. I thought I made it very clear, but I understand that not everyone pays in detail attention to everything that you do, and that's totally fine. You know, our attention is spread across lots of different things. But I've had enough comments from people thinking that I'd quit YouTube entirely that I just want to scream no, I am still here, hence this video. I'm just making different kinds of YouTube videos on a different YouTube channel, not this one. And then the reason why this video is happening now is because it's my birthday tomorrow, the 19th of February. I'm going to be 33, which to me feels like I'm really in my 30s now. I'm basically mid-30s now. Can I call myself early 30s still? Maybe just a little. And so I have a favor birthday present to ask from you, please. But also you don't have to, because this is a consensual relationship. So I have another YouTube channel called More Hannah, and it is now the only YouTube channel that I do regularly upload videos to. So maybe it needs another name, but also my brain can't handle figuring out what on earth that would be, and the logistics of changing URLs and blah, blah, blah. So for now, More Hannah. And I post videos there every week. I'm also still trying to figure out how to describe said content. At the moment, I'm landing on it being intentional, conscious, and nerdy lifestyle content, which I think helps pinpoint it and describe it a little bit better than just the general lifestyle umbrella. So if you are into reading and books, if you're into slow fashion, secondhand fashion, and style, if you're into chats about parenting, work-life balance, having a career as a working mum, and then also kind of the behind the scenes of setting up a freelance business, then all of that is there for you. And one of my incredibly superficial goals with that channel is to reach 100,000 subscribers, just so I can get the shiny silver YouTube 100k subscribers plaque. It's currently at 92,000, so it's gonna be a while. But selfishly and honestly, my other reason for making this video is to ask you to go and subscribe to that channel as a birthday present. Obviously, if you're gonna just subscribe but you're not interested in that content, don't worry, I don't need you to subscribe. But if you are interested in that content and you would occasionally watch them, dip in and out maybe, or become an avid watcher, who knows, then please do subscribe for purely superficial reasons of me wanting a shiny YouTube plaque. What can I say? I'm shallow. I am still also on Instagram and TikTok, although mostly Instagram. I tend to go through phases of bursts of activity on social media, but other than my Patreon and the private Discord server there, my Instagram is probably the best place to reach me, and also for interaction and connection and engagement with the community. So over the past year, I've been running that YouTube channel, and then I also started my new endeavor of this new freelance business that I have created, which is all about helping creators, other content creators, behind the scenes with their businesses. And that has evolved into this kind of creator consultancy, coaching. I've also done lots of Patreon strategy and consulting for folks. I really love it. And last year was kind of my exploratory phase of figuring out what people need, what it is I want to do, what am I good at, what do I have time for, capacity for. And then this year, I want to be the actually figuring shit out phase. I want to put my proper business hat on, because I've got lots of ideas, but I don't quite know which direction to take. And there's also lots of challenges as well that I need to figure out what the hell am I doing? And actually at the end of last year, I did post a whole video on the More Hannah channel that was going into detail about how my first year as a freelance consultant / coach has gone. So if you're interested in like getting into more of the nitty-gritty details, then there is a whole video for you on that. And then one of my plans on the More Hannah channel this year is actually to do a bit more of a like small business diaries kind of thing. And I think I want to call that series Little Wins, because that is going to be the theme of my year in terms of what I am focusing on. Is just kind of getting through these kind of like little wins, being able to like achieve small things. So I have like that sense of accomplishment, but without having to get too like overwhelmed by looking too far ahead. So instead, we're just going to like take it in bite-sized chunks. And the main reason I'm thinking of having that kind of little wins approach this year is because of personal reasons, which is that we are trying to conceive for baby number 2, and we have been now for over a year with no success. It took us a year with our first, and so now this time it's taking longer, and it is kind of sad and stressful, and it's hard to plan things long term when you don't know what is going to happen. And so that's why I'm going to try and focus on these little wins, and I want to create a little series around it so I can kind of really feel like I'm doing things, because I think a whole year of trying to conceive and also being in the exploratory phase with my new business, I've come into this year feeling a bit untethered and a bit lost and just a bit directionless. So I'm hoping the little wins help. Will there be a new series of the Hormone Diaries? Is a question you may or may not have. So I have not been filming any of the process of this fertility journey. I've done the odd video about it, or like answered some questions about it in Q&As on the More Hannah channel, like going into more detail, but I haven't been vlogging the process, because doing that on top of having a toddler, and I don't know, it just feels sadder this time round, and so it's a bit harder. So I tend to kind of make content about it in small bursts here and there, maybe on social media, or maybe in a Q&A or something, or just mentioned where relevant in videos, but I haven't been behind the scenes like vlogging a whole like fertility journey series. That may change, because we are now going down the private route to try and see if we can get any help. And so that might be interesting to share. I think if I do share any Hormone Diaries-esque kind of content about trying to conceive in this fertility journey and second pregnancy, hopefully soon, that will be on the More Hannah channel. So I wouldn't like do the Hormone Diaries series again here. I'd probably just keep it all on that channel. So there we go. But generally, other than the not being pregnant thing and that bumming me out constantly, I'm doing really good. And I think stepping away from the sex ed work was a really great decision. I have no regrets there at all. But I love that this channel is still here as like an archive for people to find as and when they need it, even if I find a lot of the videos on this channel incredibly cringy, and maybe I would be like, I would say that differently now, or that's not quite right in terms of how I feel anymore. But everyone is on their different journeys when it comes to learning about sex, sexuality, relationships, gender, all of that. And so hopefully the archive of videos here is lots of different entry points for people wherever they're at on that journey. And again, there is a whole video that I did at the end of last year on the More Hannah channel that is a full deep dive into what it has been like post quitting this YouTube channel. And I really dive into the like mental, emotional, and financial ramifications of that decision. Okay, so if you've made it this far, thank you very much. So these are the sex and relationships books that I read last year. I honestly read more sex ed books since quitting sex ed than I had before, which is one of the whole reasons of why I needed to step away. But these are the ones that we read for my Patreon book club, which I've called the Doing It book club because I can't let that name die. The first one that we read was Come Together, The Science and Art of Creating Lasting Sexual Connections by Dr. Emily Nagoski. I'm going to just do a quick, would I recommend this? Yes, if you are in a long-term relationship. It doesn't matter if the sex is still good or you're feeling like it's gotten a bit different. This is a great book to read to help understand those dynamics and how sexuality can change in long-term relationships. No, if you are single and dating, in that case, I would recommend Emily Nagoski's other book, Come As You Are. Next, we read Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good, written and gathered by Adrienne Marie Brown. Yes, I would recommend this if you like an essay collection and you kind of like something that's a bit scrapbooky and you don't know what you're going to get, and you're interested in all kinds of topics around sexuality, relationships, liberation, politics, activism, race, gender, porn. There's so much in here, but know if you prefer your essay collections to maybe have like a bit more cohesion and a message and a direction. It's very scrapbooky. This is The Transgender Issue, An Argument for Justice by Sean Fay, and just yes, I would recommend for everyone. Actually, if you're trans and you know because of your life experience, I would give this a miss. Like, you don't need to read this because it is quite depressing, but also very hopeful, and Sean Fay like knows how to fucking write. I love her writing so much. It's so concise. She knows her argument so well, and I just think it is a really powerful socialist argument for why we need to be putting trans rights at the forefront. Like, it's a classic case of none of us are free until all of us are free, and so we really need to focus on the most marginalized people in our society, which at the moment, trans people, trans youth are right up there. So read this book. And whilst you're at it, email your MP about the puberty blocker ban in the UK for trans youth and tell them why you are against it, because it is blatant discrimination and transphobia, and trans youth are suffering and they do not deserve it at all, and it makes me really sad and emotional to think about. Read this book, give it to all your friends and family. The next book I listened to, which was Will I Ever Have Sex Again by Sophie Hagen, who is a comedian, and this is like part memoir, part sex ed with like nuggets of information. Yes, I would recommend this if you love Sophie and their comedy, and you also maybe are someone going through a similar thing in terms of wanting to understand what are the different oppressive forces or things going on in society that might mean that you are not getting any, for lack of a better phrase, right now. I really love that this book exists because I think it is a beautiful antidote to incel culture, which goes, why aren't I getting any sex? Women are to blame and women are evil. But I think this book is just really kind and compassionate and curious. There's no instances in which I like completely wouldn't recommend it. I personally found that I enjoyed the memoir parts better, and all of the kind of like information sex ed stuff was stuff that I already knew, but that's fine because everyone's got like different entry points. But yeah, it was a lovely book and I'm glad it exists. And then we have The State of Affairs, Rethinking Infidelity by Esther Perel. Yes, I would recommend this. Like, my top recommendation for this book is anyone who is in a long-term relationship where infidelity has not occurred yet, she says ominously. I honestly think that from that position, you will be coming to this book in the best possible way to absorb it and take on what it is that you want. I think if you are somebody who has been the victim of infidelity, you might find this book really hard, even though I think that she is very compassionate towards people who have been cheated on, but there may be parts that you just find quite activating, and because there is also a lot of just like really trying to get to the root of it and understanding how and why people cheat. But I loved this book. It is just such a great conversation starter and just something to discuss, and I think it's something that most couples need to read or have an understanding of and be able to discuss before it gets to the point that there could possibly be any infidelity. I also don't know if I would necessarily recommend it if you are polyamorous. There is a whole section on non-monogamy in this book, but depending on where you're at with that, you may not need this. It is more aimed at monogamous couples, but I do still think there's something for everyone in this book. And then this is our current read. We are meeting to discuss this on Wednesday the 26th of February, so next week. So if you want to read it and join, you don't have to have read or finished the book to join in the discussion though. And the book club is open to all patrons, so any tier. And this is The Right to Sex by Amriya Srinivasan. 54 pages in, so I can't do a yes or no would I recommend it, but so far it's very well written and it's just very like rigorous academic writing about sex, which I feel like I haven't read in a while, and I'm like, yes, let's get our teeth into it. Can my brain grasp what is happening? In some cases yes, in some cases no. But this is one that I've wanted to read for so long, and I'm glad that we're finally getting around to it. Okay, so those are the books that I have read / I'm reading, and then these are some that have come out recently or are coming out soon that I just want to spread the word about. So last year, Dr. Karen Gurney published her second book, which is How to Not Having Kids Ruin Your Sex Life, Navigating the Parenting Years with Your Relationship Intact. And then there's a little quote from me on the front because I love Karen and I am very excited to read this book at some point. I don't know, I'm like, is this gonna be too raw? Especially because we're trying to conceive at the moment. So I'm just like, what can we do? But yes, love Karen, she is brilliant. And then also last year, Alison Raskin published her latest book, I think, Conversations About Modern Marriage. And I'm just very curious to read this. Alison is a YouTuber and a podcaster and a writer. I've been following her online for ages and also interviewed her and Gabe on the Doing It podcast years and years ago. But Alison a few years back had a broken engagement, which she's talked about a lot very publicly, and is now married to somebody else. And she's just someone who I think thinks very deeply about what marriage means today, what it means for women. And I'm just very curious to kind of read that book, and I feel like there'll be a lot of stuff in there that I have been thinking about but haven't quite figured out. So that is one that I want to read. I don't actually know if it's out in the UK yet, but I will happily wait. Next up is this gorgeous book. It came out at the end of January, and it is the Non-Monogamy Playbook, Exploring Polyamory and Open Relationships with Confidence by my very good friend, Ruby Rare. Ruby is incredible. If you still need to get your doses of like sex curious content, like follow Ruby on her Instagram. And also Ruby has started a Patreon, which I want to plug as well because I helped her set it up. But yes, I am very curious about reading this book. I am not somebody who currently wants to open up my relationship, but also I just feel like there is so much to learn about relationships from polyamory that I think you can still bring into a monogamous setup. But also I'm just like, from the outside, just like so curious about polyamory. I'm just like, tell me more. So I'm very excited to get to this. And I know that Ruby has worked so freaking hard on this. And then another book that came out at the end of January is Love Fix, Reclaiming Intimacy in a Disconnected World by Rachel Thompson. This one is all about dating apps, technology, intimacy, like all of that. This is a world that I have not been in for so long, but again, just like really interested to be like, what is happening now, guys? What is going on? And then in early Feb, Sean Faye's second book was published. I'm actually filming this before it's out, so it is in my future, in your past. And that is called Love in Exile. And again, I just fucking love Sean Faye's writing. I've subscribed to her newsletter as well, and her personal essays in that. I'm just like, this is just so beautifully written. But I cannot even remember off the top of my head what Love in Exile is about exactly, but I just remember being like, oh my God, that's gonna be so good. I think it is still nonfiction, and I think it is about navigating love and relationships when you are trans, and that kind of like ostracization possibly, or what it is like kind of doing all the normal things of like dating, love, relationships and sex and all of that, but when you're like on the margins and when you're marginalized because you're trans. That might be an absolutely terrible pitch for the book, so instead I encourage you to go and check it out, because that is one that is going to be like top of my list to read. And then the final book on my list is actually one that comes out today, the day that this video has been published, the 18th of Feb. So I'm gonna count this book as a birthday present to me. And it is Pink Pilled Women and the Far Right by Lois Shearing. And just the title got me. I'm like, yes, we need to know. And I think this is the perfect time for this book, especially since the last US election, with the majority of white women voting for Trump. And I think the book also like goes into like trad wives and that whole thing, and how women often use their subjugation because of their gender whilst also being protected by white supremacy, but then using their position as a white person to still further white supremacy, but then whilst also being, but I'm oppressed because I'm a woman. I'm assuming that's what it's all going to be about. But I think it's going to be an important one to read, especially for white women like myself. So there you go. I hope you liked that little treat of book recommendations and releases. If you have read any of them or any on your TBR, would love to know what you think of them. Again, plug for my More Hannah YouTube channel, my Instagram, which is just at Hannah Witton, my Patreon if you do want to join the book club, and there's also lots of other stuff happening on the Patreon and in the Discord server. And I hope that you're doing well. Tomorrow there'll be a video on the More Hannah channel. My upload day for More Hannah now is Wednesdays at 12 p.m. and it has been officially 5 years since I made a video all about my 5-year plan. And so of course it's my birthday, it's like 5 years since my 5-year plan, and so I'm going to be checking in on that plan and making another one for the next 5 years, in which I will be 38 years old. What a joy. Thank you for watching. Hope you've been doing well this past year and a bit. Thanks again for all of the love and support when I did say farewell. I'm gonna say farewell toodaloo again. Bye.